Good morning. House Transportation Committee for February 21st, 2023 is now in session. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Beck, Burkhart, Butler, Campbell, Camper, Carr, Cochran, Darby, Davis, Glenn, Grills, Harris, Hazelwood, Hicks, Marsh, Martin, Powell, Powers, Rudd, Russell, Towns, Whitson, Wright, Vice Chairman Vidal, Chairman Howell.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Appreciate that. Any personal orders, comments, questions from the committee? Seeing none, we're going to get right to it. We do have a short calendar, and then we're going to get into our Q&A with TDOT. We have number one on the calendar is House Bill 291 by Chairman Kiesling, who is at the podium already. You're ready. I have a motion and a second, sir. Do you have an amendment? I don't see one. Okay. Please, I don't hear you.
No.
There
Is
you
that
are.
better?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. House Bill 291 is nothing more really than a cleanup bill needed after we had to rewrite the billboard law back in 2020. During the rulemaking process, following the statute rewrite, the industry and TDOT, of course, had many discussions. One of those points of discussion was whether the department needed a statutory requirement to take complaints and investigate complaints and resolve. So it's again, the bill deletes the unnecessary complaint process statute to allow TDOT to continue receiving, investigating, and resolving issues. Mr. Chairman. So we hope that this will be, and I'll entertain any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Any questions for the chairman? The question has been called. We are voting on House Bill 291. All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to government operations, sir. You are
Thank
also
you.
on deck for House Bill 356. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
I have a
and
motion and a
appreciate this
second.
was actually brought to me by the by both the County Clerk Association, Tennessee County Officials Association. Postage continues to rise, doesn't it, members? Last year, we passed a bill that allowed our clerks to raise the applicable fee that a clerk may charge for the mailing of license plates from $4 up to $5. Currently, anytime there's an increase in the mailing or postage, then the only remedy is to what? Come back before you to ask for, to absorb the cost and seek legislative action year after year after year. The bill seeks to allow the clerks the ability to raise the fee for mailing out license or registrations no more, and I repeat, no more than the increase in postage cost. And effectively, we're creating an index, if you will. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll entertain any questions, but again, we hope this would be a resolve to their issue.
You've heard the explanation from the sponsor. Any questions from the committee? Question has been called on the bill. Any objections? Seeing none, we're voting on the bill. All in favor of sending House Bill 356 to finance, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to finance, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And members,
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful day and a week. Wonderful week.
Members, House Bill 92, item number 3, and House Bill 825, item number 4, has been rolled to the heel at the request of the sponsor. So we're moving on to item number 5. House Bill 700 by Representative Glenn. There you are, right in front of me. You're recognized, sir. I have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill is nothing more than a basically to reinstate a license plate that was once given to veterans. This bill, the license plates were actually taken away in 2014. So all we're doing is just asking that it be reinstated so that we can continue to take care of our veterans who've served for over the years. And it's for 100% veterans who are totally disabled. So again, this is nothing more than reinstating a license plate for veterans who have served, and I ask for your vote.
All right, you've heard the explanation, committee members. Any questions for the sponsor of this bill? Did I hear question on the bill? Question has been called on the bill. Any objections? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 700. All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The bill goes to Finance, Representative. Going to item number 6. House Bill 353 by Chairman Russell. Do I see Chairman Russell in the building? Apparently not. We will roll him to the heel as well. So moving on to item number 7 by Chairman Whitson. Chairman Whitson, you're recognized. House Bill number 675. I have a motion to second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Request to present it from my desk.
That's fine.
Thank you. And excuse me, I have a head cold this morning. This is a 3-year vehicle registration bill for rental vehicles. In recent years, the General Assembly passed legislation allowing vehicle rental companies with a minimum fleet of 15,000 vehicles a 2-year plate option. This bill will simply amend the current law to extend the 2-year plate to 3 years. We have over 50,000 rental cars in the state of Tennessee. Following the pandemic and resulting supply chain issues, rental companies had not been able to rotate vehicles out every 18 months as they have in the past. And so now what we're finding is rental car companies are keeping their cars approximately 24 months. And this will help them if we extend the plate registration to 3 years. Department of Revenue has been involved in this legislation, and the department's supportive of this change and has signed off on the language of the bill. A fee must be paid at the time the vehicle is registered. As a result, fees are paid for 3 years in advance, and basically we're getting 3 years worth of registration fees for vehicles that are kept approximately 24 months. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion.
Questions or comments from the sponsor? Question has been called on the bill. We're voting without objection on House Bill 675. All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
And now I'm going to hand the gavel to Vice Chairman Vital because I have a bill. House Bill 180.
Next item. Good morning. Next item on the calendar is House Bill 180, sponsored by Chairman Howell. We have a motion and a second. Is there an amendment, Mr. Chairman?
No. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, there is. I was looking at the wrong page. I have amendment number 3467, which makes the bill.
I see 3467. It makes the bill. Do I have a motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Mr. Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill simply aligns Tennessee state law with current federal law. You may remember a few years back, the federal law governing weight limits for semi-trucks was increased from 80,000 pounds to 82,000 pounds for those trucks operated by natural gas. And that was in order to allow for the extra weight of the tanks. Tennessee then followed suit in that occasion. Now the federal government has made the same 2,000-pound allowance for semi-trucks operated by batteries. And so this bill will simply align state law with federal law. And with that, I move passage.
You've heard the presentation. We're back on House Bill 180 as amended. Any comments from the committee? No. I've heard the question. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The bill is passed and goes to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will come back to the heel of the calendar. I had rolled Representative Gillespie's bills. Do you see him in the building? We will continue to roll him to the heel, but now we will take up Chairman Russell's bill. Chairman Russell, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion.
Committee, I apologize for being late. My flight didn't take off on time from Madisonville. House Bill 353 enacts the Sergeant Chris Jenkins Law, which require ladders to be secure in truck beds, both commercial and privately owned vehicles. And that, as a result of Sergeant Chris Jenkins got out of his patrol car up in Loudoun County, was struck and killed while trying to get a ladder out of the road. With that, I renew my motion.
All right, you've heard the explanation, members. Any questions, comments on the bill? I believe we do have an amendment. Is that correct?
We do, but I didn't bring that number with me.
I believe someone's bringing it to you, sir.
Okay.
Thank God for our staff.
I show 003467, Mr. Chairman.
I believe.
Let me try this again, Mr. Chairman.
Works over.
Let's try this one. 003699.
That's what I have, sir. Motion on the amendment? Have a motion, second. All in favor of adopting the amendment, say aye. All opposed, nay. Amendment is on the bill. Please explain now that it's amended.
Mr. Chairman, committee, the amendment makes the bill, Chris Jenkins Law, make securement of ladders mandatory, both private and commercial vehicles, Class C misdemeanor, except if it's an accident's caused, it's a Class A misdemeanor.
Okay, any questions or comments for the sponsor? Representative Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Russell, this may be kind of a goofy specific question, but so I just saw the one provision where it said a ladder being transported must be secured with lateral straps affixed at each end of the ladder. So my question was, sometimes you will see those commercial trucks on the road and, maybe the ladder's on the side of their truck. I'm assuming those are affixed with some sort of clamp or the lateral straps on both ends, is that, with those trucks, the utility trucks that we see so often, are those in compliance? Or I just didn't know if the lateral straps portion, is that too specific? Maybe not. And that might be, again, kind of a goofy question.
I would think that'd be in compliance. We'd have to ask legal. I think that would be covered under the commercial vehicle laws, but I would think they'd be in compliant.
Okay, thank you.
You want to inquire with legal?
If they
It's
have
up to
that
you.
available.
It's up to you. We'll go out of session, talk to legal. You recognize.
Representative Cochran, lateral strap isn't necessarily defined in this, so it is open to interpretation.
All right, any other questions for legal, Wilbur? Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not being here on time this morning, Nashville traffic.
We'll forgive you this one time.
I appreciate that. If I would have only had a lane, I could have jumped
lane.
into.
Are you
that would
saying-
have gotten me here quicker. It would have just been perfect. Or if I would have had some light rail to jump on, but neither
Right.
one was available.
If I understand what you're saying, you would like to have had a choice? Is
I
that?
w- Yes, I would like to have had a choice, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the sponsor, is this not the law presently? Surely there's a law that ladders have to be strapped and secured.
Are
You
we still
recognize.
out of session or we need to go back in session?
We went back in session, didn't we? I
Yeah,
think we did, yeah.
Okay, so ladders are covered under commercial vehicles, hauling ladders, but not privately owned vehicles. So this would be for private and commercial, just to make sure that it's clearly defined.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions for the sponsor? We're ready to vote on House Bill 353. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The bill goes to calendar and rules, sir. We still have two bills on the heel. Chair Lady Hazelwood, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just heard from Representative Gillespie. He too needs a choice lane. He is not going to be able to make it. He is stuck in traffic. So
Okay, we will roll his bills to, we'll roll his bill to the next calendar. All right. Now we're going to go out of session. It's good to see T-Dot back with us today. Always good to see the commissioner and members of his staff. and if you'd like to come forward and take your place at the desk, we still are getting questions and comments and things like that. So I thought it would be good to have you guys back again, and we'll continue our Q&A and conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago. So Commissioner, we are out of session, and I'll recognize you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Sounds like there's a little bit of a theme here going on about getting here in time. So appreciate the conversations seriously that we've had over the last week or two with members to answer questions, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to do that and appreciate being back with you today. I would say that we continue to move forward. We've had very positive conversations with our Road Builders Association, and all that is very positive, as well as our electric vehicle manufacturers, and continue to finalize an effort with them to all be in agreement. And so we're excited about that. Look forward to continuing. We feel like we'll be ready next week for that when we move forward. So happy to, Chairman, to answer any questions that you or the committee has.
Okay. I think there's a few. We'll recognize Speaker Marsh. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here for yet another day. I know you and your team have talked about the problems we have in the large cities with congestion. What other items are you looking at other than congestion out in the other parts of the state? I think our citizens want to hear about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker. And I think it's very important as we consider how we deal with this issue, is that we have said that this is not just an urban congestion issue, that certainly we have issues from our congestion studies that show that we have bottlenecks in all of our major urban areas. But we also know that we've got problems in our rural interstates that need expanding beyond the original kind of 2 lanes that we had. And so we can get into more detail on that. But one thing that I would like to have our chief engineer talk a little bit about. I want to show you. We did this slide to show committee kind of where we are. We have always prided ourselves in Tennessee to have better roads than most states, and we have had, and we continue to have. But what I would like to have, this bottom right slide here shows the amount of infrastructure that we have invested in Tennessee by decade on our bridges. And I think it tells a story that we haven't really delved into yet to really answer your question, Speaker. And that is, this shows by decade the amount of bridges that we have added to our system in Tennessee. And you see the huge amount of investment in the 60s and 70s in our infrastructure, particularly on the bridge side, and Will can talk about it also on the pavement side. But I think the message that I want to make here and send here is that we know that we've got to take care of what we have. We've got to take care of the infrastructure that we have, and that's always been our first priority, and that will continue to be. But as those assets that were built in the 60s and 70s continue to get older, they're going to continue to deteriorate, and we're going to continue to have to spend more to keep them at the level of safety that we have to. And so, Will, you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Good morning to the committee. I appreciate the question, Chairman, particularly with regard to the slide you're looking at. If you look at the top right graph there, you'll see pavement condition over the years. You can see pretty clearly there is a steady decline with regard to our pavement condition, even though we continue to increase dollars in that program every year. So also, if you look at the graph on the bottom, that is, as the commissioner mentioned, that is bridges built by decade. So what you will see is that the majority of our bridges were built in the 60s and 70s. So they require obviously more attention than one that was built last week or last year. So we have to continually strategize in putting dollars into those assets that we already have. While congestion obviously is an issue on our system, we won't have a system if we don't maintain it. So that has to be our number one priority. The other thing, Representative, that I would say with regard to, you asked about other things outside of congestion. One of our biggest things is safety. We have a lot of issues we actually have a program that deals with a lot of the issues we have on many of our rural state routes that frankly were designed at a time when people were driving a lot slower and technology and vehicles was a lot different than it is today. People weren't as distracted. So that is a big issue that we have to deal with, and we have to put resources towards that's not really in the congestion bucket, if you will. So safety is one of those priorities. Connectivity for economic development is also one of those priorities. So again, while congestion obviously gets a lot of the headlines, it's really what I'll call the meat and potatoes of what we do that makes our system what it is.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Speaker.
Next on the list, Chairman Whitson.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, team from TDOT. It was in the news this weekend about how fast they've repaired that bridge in downtown Nashville. That was quite a story and quite an achievement without disrupting weekday traffic. My question has to do with law enforcement jurisdiction on the choice lanes and who's responsible for enforcement, traffic enforcement, and also accident investigation of the choice lanes.
Yes, sir. So I think all of this would be part of our contractual relationship. But as far as law enforcement, enforcement of the lanes, our safety department would continue to be involved and engaged there. And we would also have a back office operation that would be part of the public-private partnership that would be involved in managing that process. So, but we would continue to have law enforcement involved in that process.
Follow up?
And also to investigate accidents and on the choice lanes.
Yes,
too?
sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, TDOT, for being back here once again. Just a little bit different direction, but I know there's been some studies and some efforts been put forth to maybe incorporate some of our tires into some asphalts in different states. We have a tire problem all across Tennessee. Is there any future for that or with that? And I'm not trying to encourage that this be part of the new program going forward, but there is.
Yeah, good question. I'll let Will answer the detail of it, but I would say, just like everything else, we're continuing to see technology playing a major role in all kinds of facets of infrastructure, from congestion, like we've been talking about, to these kind of technologies on asphalt itself to be able to better utilize that. You want to respond?
Yeah, so GTR, as it's called in the industry, or ground tire rubber, is something that's been talked about in asphalt technology around the country for years. We actually did a research project last year where we worked with some members of industry. Some of our road builders partnered with us and actually retrofitted some of their equipment to be able to experiment with GTR. It's like any other kind of new technology, Representative, to be honest. It's getting to the point where you can perfect it enough to produce it on a large scale to make it economically viable. And in our experience, that we haven't gotten to that point yet, although we've seen some some decent results. And what I will tell you is whether it's GTR or anything else that comes down the pike, if it can help the technology of our pavements, we're going to be interested in it. We're at the forefront of research and technology on a national level. I mentioned in one of the last hearings here how we are members at NCAT at Auburn University, which is a research facility for pavements, particularly asphalt pavements. So we are very connected with them and actually rent a section of test track where we can try new types of mixes. So whether it's GTR or asphalt shingles or RAP, we call it recycled asphalt pavement, we are always looking for ways that we can improve our mixes.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just appreciate being, thinking outside the box. Being from a Northwest Tennessee, and I farm, there's always a set of tires thrown out at the entrance of about every farm we have. So it's become a nuisance. And our solid waste issues or something else, we need to keep them out of landfills. So anything we can do to maybe incentivize this or encourage this, maybe that's the right word to use, I'm all for. But I appreciate y'all thinking outside the box.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, we're at the end of the list. So anybody else have any questions? Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner and team, for being here. Just a couple of quick questions. Actually, when I was sitting in traffic this morning, I was thinking about how these lanes will merge back in and how that'll affect existing traffic. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Yes, sir. It will be well delineated as to, how directionally, how that occurs. And so it'll be clear access and getting on and getting off as to how that is done. And there will be, both on the roadway itself as well as signage. Signage is a key part of making sure that this works correctly. And so that'll definitely be a big part of this process.
Second question is, you mentioned you had conversation with our EV partners. What did any change in the fees or anything from those discussions?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna wait till we have that finalized as far as rolling it out next week. But I will say to you that we've had a very collaborative conversation over the last few weeks, and we appreciate the partnership that we have with our manufacturers. And what we're looking to do is to, as we mentioned previously, is to phase that in, so that it would not be all at one time, and that we would also do it at registration time, not at point of sale, so that it would continue to be a benefit from that standpoint. And that we would also look at kind of a variable way of doing the indexing, so that there was a 3-year average as opposed to the volatility that could occur in any one given year, so that it would help to even things out. And so we've listened to those concerns and interest, and we have worked with them on each one of those things to try to come up with something that is beneficial and a win-win for everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Deputy Governor, Commissioner, all things titled. Just for the record, I continue to get emails. I know all of my colleagues are doing the same, from people who have a lot of misinformation about this bill. So for the record, one more time, could you go through on the choice lanes, number one, who's going to own them, and number two, that they are going, if my understanding, that will all be new construction, that there will be no existing lanes that will be converted to choice lanes. So just like to have you put that on the record one more time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chair Hazelwood. You're exactly correct in that as we have said all along, that these would be new lanes, that if you're in an existing lane, general purpose lane, regular lane, that you totally would have a choice. You wouldn't have to pay anything to stay in those lanes, that these would be additional lanes that you would have a choice to get in to be able to move more quickly. What was the other question?
The
Yeah,
ownership
the
issue.
ownership. This is a big one that has been discussed, and just to be very clear, as you said, we own our roads. We will always own our roads. This would be a mere lease, and at the end of that time, we would retain ownership, and as we will have throughout that time period. So we're not selling anything, and to be very clear on that.
All right, any other questions? Wow, too bad the bill wasn't on the calendar. This would be a good time to pass the bill, wouldn't it? Personal privilege, I'm glad that Chair Lady mentioned that, who owns the roads. Anytime we do something new in the legislature, there is, seems to be a rise of misinformation. I've gotten, I don't know how many emails, I'm sure most of you have too, alleging that we are getting ready to privatize our roads. Nothing could be further from the truth. Am I right with that?
Yes, sir. We're not selling anything.
Yeah.
We will always have control, and all of that standard will be part of the agreement that we have with the public-private partnerships, so that we're able to stay in control of our assets.
Yeah. Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess to piggyback on Chairman Hazelwood, would you explain to us the difference between a toll road and a choice lane? Because we are getting these emails over and over again. I mean, way past 2000.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
you know, they're copy and paste emails, but I feel like there's some misinformation there. And if you would indulge us.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Grills. I think that that has been a misconception, and that's one of the reasons the governor said from the beginning that he was not in favor of traditional toll roads. The toll roads that of the past, you had to pay to get on all the lanes. That's the only way you could get on the road, and you had to pay to get off. And so these are, as I mentioned, additional lanes on our existing roads, but are a total choice. So you can stay on the general purpose lane, or you can choose to get into the express lane, choice lane, and so that's a total misconception that it is all toll. It's a total choice for that lane, and you can not pay on the other lane.
Any other questions? It's my understanding too, Commissioner, that a true toll road is mandatory. If you want to get from point A to point Z, and that's the only road that gets there,
Yeah.
you have to pay a fee. Choice lanes, you have multiple choices, and
That's
you can
right.
stay in the general lane, or you can choose to pay a fee to use the express lane.
Yes, sir.
So that is a major difference between mandatory toll roads and choice lanes.
Well, the other thing, Chairman, is that's a big benefit that hasn't been talked about very much, but we anticipate that transit buses will be able to get into these lanes. And what we have seen every place else that we have studied these lanes is that obviously that increases reliability for those transit buses. It's even increased ridership in other states where they have this, and so it's not only beneficial to the cars that get in it, it's also beneficial to those that are in buses or carpools or park and ride along the way that we would incorporate into these lanes. And so that's also another big benefit, that those people would be riding without paying anything.
Okay. Representative Martin.
Thank you, Chairman. Tell us, Commissioner Ely, what are vehicles that would not be allowed in these choice lanes? Motorcycles, semi-trucks? What is not allowed?
Yeah,
You told us what is allowed.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
I'm gonna, those details would be worked out in the agreement itself in the contract. So, but I will tell you that the way it normally works is that it would be 2-axle vehicles that would be allowed. So your normal cars, your normal service trucks that go out each day. The only thing really, the best way to describe it to me is 18-wheelers that would not be allowed. And so that's the major distinction. So 18-wheelers would not be. Pretty much everything else on a 2-axle type of vehicle would be.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner, I'm wondering, is there any data in the choice lanes that we have investigated, like the one in Dallas? Is there any data that shows what percentage of commuters choose to use the choice lanes? There has to be a certain level of percentage, or the investors won't invest in order
That's-
to get their return on investment.
Yes, sir. That's correct. So there has to be an economic feasibility study done that will look at how many lanes there are, and how many choice lanes. There could be one choice lane. There could, if the demand calls for it, to have two choice lanes. So the percentage, we could probably get some better details for you to report back as to what Texas maybe or Florida looks like. But it really would depend on the roadway itself. And so each one's going to be a little bit unique. Each major urban area that we have would be different. But obviously, as you said, they've got to be economically feasible to pay a portion, and that'll be up to us and the board that oversees this from an oversight standpoint for the state, as to what that pricing methodology would look like.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Representative Bud.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, right now in the budget and in the planning process in TDOT, there's a lot of projects projected, several around Chattanooga, the hundreds of millions of dollars. There are other cities with those in the pipeline. Those will continue as planned and not be converted to choice lanes. Is that correct?
Thank you, Chairman Vital. Well, what I would say is hopefully that we would expedite. I mean, part of these dollars that you will be appropriating, if you do so choose, will be used to continue to expedite the Improve Act projects that are out there. There are some of those projects that were in the Improve Act that were congestion-oriented projects that could be utilized and turned into these choice lanes. So I would say that for the massive majority, it would be business as usual as far as expediting the projects that are already out there in that pipeline. But we'll be looking over these next few months at determining which of those congestion-oriented projects that were in the Improve Act that might qualify to be economically feasible to become a choice lane. So that's, yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that. I appreciate the question, and I think it's important from an engineering perspective for us all to realize that this is a very dynamic process as far as when we talk about individual projects that have been around, projects that are coming, what makes a good congestion project. It is truly something that changes as time marches on. Frankly, one of the reasons why this entire package is so important from my perspective is without funding that keeps pace with the changing needs, projects get designed or planned, they sit around. And by the time you get to where you can afford to build them, either the mix of traffic, the land uses, all of the circumstances around what made that project the right project at one time may have changed. And that is something that has to be considered here, is the dynamic nature. We are very blessed, obviously, in Tennessee, and I know we're all biased, to have such an economically vibrant state that everybody wants to come to. What that presents for us from an engineering standpoint is constant change in the way our users use our facilities, whether it's congestion, safety, speed, all economic development, all of those factors. So those all have to be looked at, whether it's a choice lane project or a congestion project that's already in the pipeline, depending on when the funding is available for that, can make a difference in how that project looks. And we need the ability to make sure that we have an opportunity to develop that project that actually suits the need, not only now, but for future uses.
I would say, Chairman, I want to show you one. I want to show you this slide. This is new from the last time that we spoke before the committee, and it really gets to your point, and that is, are these projects going to continue? Are all the projects that we already have going to continue, or will some of these funds take the place of that? And everything we're talking about here is adding to. So we're planning, as we have said before, we've got the 1.2 billion or so that is part of our annual program that would continue as is. The governor's proposing this 3.3 billion, 300 going to local government, 3 billion that would be part of this major projects modernization program. And so the thing that has been missed a little bit, at the top of this, you see the 3.3, and then on the right-hand side, the additional dollars. These dollars, the 3 billion, will be leveraged to the extent that the economic feasibility allows for in these projects that we're talking about. And so if there is a project that's a $500 million project, and it shows that 400 million of it is economically feasible through the public-private partnership, we may put in 100 million, but we get the benefit of reallocating that $400 million to other projects that now would be 400 million that we would have to come up with through the existing revenue stream. And so what we're talking about here is not only 3 billion that we can spend on these projects and expansion projects of the interstate. We're also talking about being able to use the funds that we can leverage from that into other projects that are part of the Improve Act as well.
Any other questions? Do you have a follow-up?
Just a quick follow-up, and I would just say, there's no doubt we're all concerned about congestion. I think it's the number one question on lots of people's minds as they sit in traffic. As we leverage this, there's so much an opportunity to expand in our rural areas. And I look back at highways that were visioned 30 years ago or 40 years ago, like 111 from Soddy Daisy to Cookville. It would never be a choice lane, but it's opened up an area, and and I want to get ahead of this, not just making choices about congestion today and responding. We need to be proactive rather than reactive. And so I would appreciate your vision as we leverage that $3 billion to $6 billion and $8 billion, but we still have to build roads in the rural areas, and maybe this helps us do it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for making that point, because that really is the governor's desire and point to doing this in the first place, is how we can solve some of these urban issues, but at the same time, get the funding to be able to do these projects in the rural areas that, quite frankly, at this point, as I said here, it's going to be a long time in coming, and we don't do something different. Thank you, sir.
Representative Burkhart, you recognize.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner, staff, thank you for being with us. Just a quick question, and you probably answered it earlier in some of the other hearings. Can these lanes be reversed? So in other words, could we have two coming into town in the morning, flipping them around and coming back out of town in the afternoons?
Yes, good question. That's a total engineering question that will depend on the circumstance. And Those of you who have driven on the ones in Georgia have seen they are reversible. Some of the ones in Virginia are reversible, and some of the ones in other places are not. It really depends on the engineering of that roadway.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really a site-specific or a project-specific question, but the short answer is yes.
Speaker Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And earlier you said that you all had met with the road builders and that you felt good about them. How are we on the design delivery part of this legislation? Are everybody in agreement?
Yeah.
Or somewhat in agreement?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Chairman. We spent a lot of time with the road builders over the last couple of weeks, and I want to thank them, I guess, on the record here for sitting down with us and us working through a lot of the finer points. And I think we're getting close to that. I feel good about where we are. We've always had a good relationship with our road building partners in Tennessee, and this has been no different. We appreciate them sitting down with us. I think we are getting very close. I'm very confident that we're going to be able to get across the finish line here with their support and with a really good place on this legislation. So I'm very confident in that at this point.
Let me add to that just briefly, Chairman and Speaker. We have utilized our partnership with the private sector to build our roads in Tennessee for 100 years. I mean, we become that's very vital in how we get our roads built in Tennessee, and we are fortunate to have a very strong road building industry in Tennessee that do a great job. And so I think too, we appreciate working with them on this and think we're close to being able to come together on that. Thank you for the
If
question.
I could just follow up on that, the director of the Road Builder Association called me over the weekend and he gave me permission to comment. But we had a good conversation. But bottom line is he looks forward to the road builders endorsing this bill probably sometime in the next few days. So that's encouraging to me. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you to
Thank
all
you,
your
members.
staff and all that you do for us and keeping our roads safe. And we look forward to helping you make them safer. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
We'll go back in session. Members, any questions, comments, or motions? We are adjourned.